What is up, Packers fans, and welcome back to another prospect primer and another episode of the Daily Draft brought to you by Badger State Brewing in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Today, we talk about a premium player at a position of need for the Green Bay Packers, and that is Miami safety Kamren Kinchens. Very, very fun watch, especially, and I've talked about this before with other prospects. Go back a year, go back 2 years, but obviously the most relevant tape is probably the most recent tape. I tell you, Kamren Kinchens 2010, and if you go back, and this is one thing I will say about Kinchens, go back to um, a lot of the early May, and there'll be the way too early 2024 first round mock. Kinchens is in all of them. Okay. He was a 20-year-old player, either 19 or 20. I'd have to go look. A 20-year-old player, either way, very, very young player in 2022, and he might have been the best defensive back in college football. He might have been one of the best defensive players in college football. 2023 maybe didn't go quite as well for Kamren, but still a fun watch. One of the guys that I truly enjoyed watching, and one of the guys that I think would be just an awesome fit in Green Bay. And so I'm hoping to have this be one of the videos that you guys really enjoy, because I have read some of the comments about why isn't he addressing players of need? Why isn't he? Well, because the players that I actually think they're going to draft, and Kitchens is one of them, I'll say that, but the players that I really think Green Bay might be focused on, might make sense, we're going to do those later. A, because it's closer to the draft, and B, because we'll have NFL Combine and or Pro Day info, and those aren't the be all end all, but it paints the most complete picture, right? And we want all the information for the prospects that Packers fans care about most. Okay, and that's why some, Jatavion Sanders. What are we going to do with him? Some of the other spots where it's like, wow, we might not even be in a position to draft him, or why are we talking about wide receivers? Why in the world are we talking about tight ends? Well, because we're going to do a ton of these prospect primers, and that's good because you guys like them and I enjoy doing them. But the guys that, like I said, the Packers might really, really zone in on, those are the guys that we want to do closer to the draft. So it's more exciting, and we want the most information possible. We want the most complete picture. We want all the data. I want to have all of the possible games that I, can watch, because we're probably 80, 100 hours of film watching for me still left in this draft class, and that's fine. I love doing it. So, but today, Kamren Kinchens, that is the whole long spiel of me getting into some nonsense to just tell you that sometimes it's fun to watch the tape from not last year, but 2 years ago. Perfect example. Perfect example. And I think I've mentioned this before on this show. Dontavion Wicks. Dontavion Wicks, his 2021 tape was an absolute electric factory. His 2022 tape was kind of He should have been a top 60 pick. Truly. I mean, you go look at where he ranks amongst wide receivers and where he ranks amongst wide receivers in his class. He should have been a second round pick. And he wasn't, because his 2022 tape was kind of should have gone back to the 2021 tape, and maybe that's what the Green Bay Packers did. Kamren Kinchens, very versatile player, 110 box snaps in 2023, 113 snaps as a slot cornerback, and then 379 free safety snaps. And by the way, in 2022, that looks very similar. You have to ID him on film. You got to pay attention to what wristbands he's wearing, what socks, whatever. You have to pay attention, especially on the wide angle, to where they're lining him up, because he's not lining up in the same place on every play. And that's because Miami used him as a weapon, which on defense, he really, really is. He had the fourth highest coverage grade of any defensive back in college football in PFF in 2022. And that includes cornerbacks. I'm not just talking about safeties. Now, we've talked about this before, and I want to address it again. I don't view PFF grades as the gospel. My top, what I think is now a 270. I mean, my big board is not by any stretch of the imagination ordered by guys at PFF grades. What I will say, though, about PFF and about their grades is that it's play in, play out. Okay. These analysts look at every single play, then a different analyst does it at least one more time. So you got two people grading every single play. It's what Andy does for us at Packer Report with his grades. Okay. And when you do that, in my opinion, now you can disagree with how they grade all those things. In my opinion, the number one thing I take away from PFF grades is consistency. Okay, if you're doing it down in, down out, you're going to have a high PFF grade. And that's what I saw from Kamren Kinchens specifically in 2022. And guys with PFF grades have shown the ability to do it down in, down out throughout the course of a game and throughout the course of a season. And Kinchens 2022 was very, very special. The ball production and the playmaking is very, very special from Kamren Kinchens. He has got 11 picks, 10 PBUs in the last 2 years, and to me that is very impressive. And more important than it being very impressive is the fact that it's different from what the Packers have. I think by this point you've definitely seen my promo video for my all 22 promo video for Tyler Nubin. And then, by the way, he's also scored 2 touchdowns with those PBU in the last couple seasons. He's got 2 career forced fumbles. I mean, this is play and 2 career fumbles recovered. This is flat out just production they don't have. Okay, you know, I've talked about at cornerback liking the shutdown guys more than the gamblers. At safety, I'd really not necessarily like some gamblers, but I'd like some playmakers. And even at nickel, I'd like a playmaker. You look at, you know, the preferred, if you want to call this the preferred secondary, you can argue with what is preferred and what was not with the kind of garbage can that they had at safety. But we'll just talk about, you know, at the end, right? So Jonathan Owens and Darnell Savage at safety, your 3 corners across were Carrington Valentine, Jair Alexander, and then, you know, Key in the nickel, Keyshawn Nixon in the nickel. Had like 1 pick or 2 picks and 19 pass defense between the 5 of them. That's not good enough. Okay. 11 picks, 10 pass breakups, and 2 touchdowns is playmaking. It's real playmaking in the ACC in a good conference with, you know, Riley Leonard. He's going to be a real NFL prospect. Jordan Travis is a real NFL prospect. You know, Clemson's in that league. Drake May obviously is a real, you know, my number 1 overall prospect in this class. Played against real quarterbacks and made plays. And playmaking is just not something that the Packers have. Prototype size, you maybe like him to be a little bit taller, but he's a shade over 5'11", 206, versatile. You know, could play maybe a little bit of sub linebacker, could play a little slot corner, could play strong safety, and can he play free safety? Though is really the question about his value, and we'll talk about that. He's just 21 years old, and again, as I mentioned, dominated in his second year of college football as either a 19 or a 20-year-old playing against, in the COVID era, sometimes 23, 24-year-olds, especially at quarterback, because these guys are getting the bag from NIL and these QBs are staying in college forever. So he's an inexperienced player playing against experienced players and kicking their butt. And that is fun. That is exciting. That's a projection. That's one of the reasons I like Kamren Kinchens. Everything is smooth. Everything is fluid. Change of direction so fluid. Hips so fluid. Ankles so fluid. Everything that he does is smooth, and he's smooth with the ball in his hands. I'm not saying use him on offense, but, you know, we talk about the 2 touchdowns. You talk about 156 career interception return yards. This guy is pretty special when he gets it in his hand, and that's fun to watch. And it's an important part of playmaking. It might only apply 3 times a season, you know, 5 if he's really, really good, but he's a smooth athlete, and that kind of change of direction, that buttery ability to stop and get going again, that's something I like in a safety. He's a try-hard guy too, guys. His motor runs heavy. He plays his absolute butt off, and I appreciate that when I watch him on film. Quick read and react guy, understands route concepts, and he's rarely late. Rarely late to the ball, or rarely late to making the tackle. You see that on his film. I think Jeff Hafley would love him. I really do. I mentioned, you know, the Mike Usain video, which I believe you probably saw yesterday, talking about the middle of the field being such a killer for the Packers, and for years, not just in Joe Barry's defense, but for years. And so his ability to understand route concepts, his understanding where he needs to be, either as a free safety or as an overhang box defender, I think could really come in handy for a defense that middle of the field pass defense is a big deal that they have to get fixed. It's one of their key weaknesses. You know, you saw Brock Purdy attack it in the last game of the season, and you know, you saw the Chiefs just take away George Kittle, just took him away. I don't think Christian McCaffrey had a big game catching the ball either. But the Niners, the only reason the Niners were even playing in the Super Bowl is because they identified Green Bay's linebackers, their nickelback, and their safeties as guys they could go after, and they did over and over and over again. Kamren Kinchens could be a guy that, puts a little bit of a stop to that. Good on run defense, not spectacular, but he's not a liability. And so for as good of a coverage player as he's shown he can be, for him to be an average to a slightly above average run defender, tackler, etc., that's in the plus column because he's not, there are, and we'll talk about one of them, not necessarily super soon, but there is a single high safety that's really, really exciting with the ball in the air and as a coverage player who doesn't tackle very well. And that's not Kinchens. Okay. He tackles fine. Cons, his smoothness, as I kind of talked about, sometimes causes him to play high. It doesn't get super deep into his back pedal sometimes. And that can bite him a little bit when trying to change directions. And certainly like in a man cover situation on a tight end, that he's such a elite athlete and he's been so good at such an early age. Sometimes the fundamentals slip a little bit, and can't think of a better guy to teach him fundamentals than Jeff Hafley. When you talk about his success as a defensive backs coach, I think a guy like Kinchens, who just kind of needs to clean up what he does a little bit, just make sure his craft is detailed every time. And that's what you get sometimes, guys, with these, players that are all conference as a freshman, or these guys that know they're a top 25 pick, know they're a top 40 pick. Sometimes the fundamentals go because it's just like, I'm a better athlete, I'm a better player than all these guys. And they don't have a super strong position coach or a super strong coordinator. You will get times where defensive and offensive players kind of get an extra leash and kind of are allowed to do stuff maybe they shouldn't be doing. And I mean that on the field. I mean, just, being about your business, being about your craft, being technically sound every time. Sometimes that's not the case with Kamren Kinchens, who, by the way, I love as a player. Got to go over these cons, though. Really struggled at the end of 2023, and I honest to God wonder if he wasn't hurt. His overall performance in 2023 was not at the level it was at 2022. I haven't read anything about an injury. Granted, I haven't looked too deep into it. Most of my notes are just based on film that I've watched with Kinchens. I haven't done a ton of biography work or checking in on him, but just was a much better player in 2022. And then specifically the end of 2023 was kind of gross. And that could have been, and you don't like to see that because you like to see guys play hard till the end. And he's a try-hard guy on film. But Miami didn't have much to play for toward the end of the season either. So you wonder if that's the case. You wonder if there's a nagging injury. Just you wonder. Open field tackling is not always great. His angles to the ball could use some work. That's something that a good coach could clean up a little bit. And here's the big one. Here's the big con, or the big potential con. His range might not be elite. And while being a very good box safety or a very good overhang defender or a very good cover 2 safety or a very good cover 4 safety has value, it's not the same as a Nick Collins. It's not the same as an Ed Reed. It's not the same as an Earl Thomas. It's not the same as, what we all thought Malik Hooker was going to be. But a true single high dude at free safety still has tremendous value. And if he can't be that, if he doesn't run fast enough to be that, if his straight line acceleration isn't enough to be that, if his range isn't enough to be that, that makes him a box safety, especially in Jeff Hafley's defense. So you desperately are hoping for, and again, as I mentioned, 380 free safety snaps. So he's played the free spot. I need to know that he can do it at the NFL level. I need to know that he's a good enough athlete to do it at the NFL level. So I'm really, really paying attention to Kamren Kinchens' combine. And he's a guy for sure, I promise you, when we do break down the safeties, and our safety breakdown guy for the actual positional preview is really exciting. I'm very pumped to talk about this class and about specifically Kinchens with this person. A little teaser there. Very, very pumped about that. He likes Kinchens, and that's something I'm going to be paying attention to with the combine is that 40 time and that 10-yard split and that vert. Does he have the explosiveness? Does he have the top end speed to really truly play center field? And what's his value if he can't? Right now, I'll tell you my overall rank at the end, but it's 33. Okay, so right on the edge of a first round grade. If I think he can play single high, he's going to get a round 1 from me. If I don't, maybe 40th, 45th. Still a solid round 2. Still a guy you want in your secondary, but not necessarily maybe that elite thing that you're looking for, that true center fielder, that not necessarily 1 in a million, but I mean, what they found, what they went looking for, and what they found for Dom Capers' defense in Nick Collins. That's what you're looking for right now is Nick Collins. Now, it's tough to find, and credit to Ted for doing that, but that is what they're looking for. There's no more interchangeable, I should say no more, but it's a lot less interchangeable with the safety group where we want them to be able to do both things. We're going to play a light box. We're going to have 2 safeties coming down and filling the alley, cover 4, cover 2. All that Joe Barry nonsense is gone. You're probably, and what I have watched, you're going to have a free safety. You're going to have a center fielder. You're going to have a box guy. And Kinchens could be a really, really good box guy, and that's good to have. I would argue that Adrian Amos was a really, really good box guy. It's not the same from a value perspective. It is easier to find. And so if he's that, his value does go down a little bit for me. The Packers fit goes right back to the center field question. Do they view him as a box safety? Do they view him as a single high safety? That's going to definitely, I think, swing where they would or would not maybe take him. He could be very high level at the other safety position. If he's playing Adrian Amos' spot or theoretically playing, the Morgan Burnett spot or the Charlie Pepper spot, whatever that is, he could be really good at that, like really good. And that would be exciting and a fine ad, especially if they're able to get like a veteran like Jordan Fuller in that free safety spot or able to play Cooper DeJean in free. I mean, my God, if they had Cooper at free safety and Kinchens at strong, whoo, goodness gracious me. He's got playmaking that the Packers simply have not had of late. And some of that is the passive nature of Joe Barry's defense. But some of it, I mean, you look at, there were years with Joe Barry and with Mike Pettin that guys had ball production. So I'm not going to put it all on Joe Barry. I'm going to put some of it on just guys didn't make plays. And that's got to turn around. That's got to be better. Kinchens has shown, again, like I said, Jordan Travis, NFL QB, Drake May, NFL QB. There are plenty of guys, Riley Leonard, NFL QB. There are plenty of guys in that conference that can really go at the quarterback position, and he's been making plays over and over. He's a very, very impressive kid, impressive player. I enjoyed watching him. He's one of the eight. So I've got 6 corners and 2 safeties that I would like the Packers to acquire at least one of. If they acquire 2, I'd be just thrilled. The 6 corners are Nate Wiggins, Cooper DeJean, the 2 Alabama kids, Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry, along with Ennis Rakestraw Jr. and Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. And the 2 safeties are Kinchens and Tyler Nubin from Minnesota. I would really, really like the Packers to leave the draft with at least one of those 8 kind of top shelf defensive backs. If it's more than one, boy, are we excited. That, of course, depends on if the Packers aggressively, address their secondary and free agency, which they may do. They may. Not a ton of money to do that, but they may. We wouldn't know that yet, hopefully, at the time of you guys catching this particular show. And he could be a high floor, low ceiling prospect to me. I think there's definitely a high floor. I know what this kid can do well in the league. But if he tests as like an 80th percentile athlete or a 75th percentile athlete, I don't think super duper stars on the table for him. And that could be awesome at like pick 58. And you start to look at like PFF Sport. I mean, he's in the mid-50s for them. So depending on testing, he could just be like a really, really good NFL football player, and those are valuable. Of course, you're trying to, as I mentioned, you're looking for Nick Collins. Nick Collins was a super duper star, and Kinchens might not be that. We'll see where the testing comes back, but be paying attention. He is one to watch for the NFL Combine. If you're a Packers fan, watch what Kamren Kinchens does at the NFL Combine. Wrapping this up, overall grade for me is a high round 2. He's my 33rd overall player with possible upward movement if he can run a good time, and I truly believe he can be a center fielder and play that single high safety and make plays. He'd probably have a overall rank in the mid-20s and a grade as a 1, as a true round 1. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening, however you're taking this in. You want to help us out? We'd really appreciate it. Buy the Green Bay Draft Guide powered by Packer Report. Use promo code DAILY for 10% off. That's DAILY, promo code DAILY for 10% off. Follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I'm at Ross Uglem. Check us out at Packer Report. And guys, as always, like, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do here for the Pack a Day podcast. Have an awesome rest of your day, and go Pack Go.